All right, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, I'm sure to many of you this is not breaking news at this point because I've seen a ton of articles and a ton of YouTubers reacting to it and things like that. But Nate Diaz was in a street altercation, right? I wanted to kind of wait just to make sure that I wasn't missing any information. I want to give my reaction to this and kind of give a little bit of a nuanced take, as annoying as that word is, because I've been in situations like on opposite ends of the spectrum, and we're going to play the video. I'm going to show you some things that I noticed in the video that maybe some people didn't notice because it all happens very fast. Before we do, dude, please like and subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'll thank you in advance. We're almost at 400. Let's get... Whoa, dude, already hit my mic. Let's get there. By the end of the day, if we could, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, so let's start off by watching this video, right? This is towards the end, so I'm gonna... Which I actually would prefer, because something that I noticed that happens right at the very beginning I think is kind of important. So we all know what happens here. Now, okay. Oh, I gotta pause Andy this, dude. I gotta stop real quick because it happens really fast. Right there, Nate pushes that dude off. Right? Now, that guy's not necessarily... He's not facing Nate. He's not pushing him off from the chest. He's kind of pushing him off from the side, as if he's got a hand on the shoulder area, on the front, and from the back. And this dude immediately is already walking into the picture with his hands up. However, his hands are not up in the traditional sense that I would like say that somebody's either surrendering or trying to show non-aggression. His hands are a little too forward for me, personally, because I've been in a situation like this before that I will talk about after. Now, Nate Diaz has his hands up like he's ready to go, fist balled up and everything. This dude's hands, man, too forward. Look how close they are. You know what I mean? They've got quite a bit of space in between them, in their feet, but the hands are very close. And a lot of people are pointing out that Nate Diaz was backed up against the wall, right? And they're using that as like a reason as to why this could be considered self-defense or something like that. If you haven't been in a violent altercation, I can understand you may be having that take. However, humans are not raccoons, right? If you back a raccoon into a corner, okay, I know this. Watch out, dude, because they're savage, right? They will attack you if they feel like they are being cornered. Now, if I'm in a violent altercation where there are a ton of people involved in a scuffle, I do not want to be out in the open. I just don't. I would much rather have my back up against the wall. You just eliminate the potential for somebody to come up behind you and hit you with either their fist or something harder than a fist, which I have been hit with both, okay? You do not want to get hit from behind, especially not when you've got a guy already coming at you. Whether or not you think he's coming at him aggressively is irrelevant. He's walking towards him, which if this guy was really trying to not get into any kind of altercation whatsoever, he should probably just not walk up to Nate Diaz. You know what I mean? But I would rather have my back up against the wall personally if I'm about to get into... If there's a scuffle going on between a bunch of people, I don't want to be out in the open, okay? This dude's hands also... This is the other thing. People are saying, well, this guy was like surrendering. He was showing that he wasn't being aggressive. Well, Jorge Masvidal had his goddamn hands behind his back, right, before he sucker punched Leon Edwards 3 times before Leon could even respond to it. This guy, with his hands out and forward, he's not standing completely squared. His foot is back a little bit, which I understand we're kind of autistically like going over the details here, but it is worth noting, dude, because I'm telling you, if my back, if I'm in this situation, right, and I've got my back covered and this dude's coming up to me, I'm paying attention to all of this shit. And it doesn't happen the way that I'm talking to you, but it happens very quick. You process all this information. Like, his hands are up, but they're forward. His feet are not squared. He is kind of almost in a fight-ready position. There's literally fighters that fight like this. You know what I mean? With their hands up. But anyways, and then this is Nate grabs the hand first. This is the problem. Now, he could just say that he didn't want him to get sucker punched because, dude, it's a lot easier to sucker punch somebody if your hands are already out and forward like that. You've got a very short distance to go for your fist to travel before you can actually hit them. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, again, we saw Jorge Masvidal get 3 shots off on a professional fighter, Leon Edwards, with his hands behind his back. You know what I mean? If your hands are already right there, he could get you easily. So the camera pans away, which is very unfortunate, and everybody rushes to this. I don't know who is friends with who. Like, I truly don't know. And then this is the part that I can't stand. Oh, no, it's coming up. So he gives him a nice knee to the body. Beautiful work in the clinch there. That guillotine, dude. Jesus, is that tight. That is, like, locked in totally, right? And then that's the part I don't like. And he drops him on the concrete like that. I really don't like that, dude. When I was in high school, I was the kind of guy where if my buddy was about to fight somebody, I would, like, literally step in between them and force them to move onto the grass because I did not want anybody to get dropped and hit their head on the concrete because it's just not worth it, man. I've been in a situation very similar to this, similar to Nate. Right now, I'm not a professional fighter, so it's kind of a little bit different. I was also a teenager at the time, and I'm not telling this story to come off as like a badass or anything like that, dude. And I understand that I've got long hair now, and I've been told by people in my community, not in my online community, in my real life one, right, that where I live at, that I look like a hippie, which is fine, dude. But I did get in a lot of fights growing up as a teenager and things like that. So we were going to a house party, or I was going to a house party, and a bunch of my friends were already there. At 14, I had already been training kickboxing for a bit, so I was in at least relative to my friend group, I was by far like the most adept and capable of fighting somebody. So I show up to this house party with one other of my friends, and we show up to a fight going on outside, which is not really a fight. So at the time, this information I did not know, but the three people that were involved, not on my friend's side, were all adult males. They were all in their 20s, right? We were 14 years old at the time. I was in grade 9. I remember this very, very well. I walk up to the front of the house, kind of in like the front lawn area, and I notice that my one friend is on the ground getting beat up by these three guys. And now I was like the same height that I am now when I was 14, right? Like I was a pretty big 14-year-old, but not to the point where you would mistake me for an adult, at least not in my opinion. And one of the guys that was beating him up maybe didn't think, or maybe thought that I hadn't seen what was going on, or what. So he separated from the group that was beating up my friend, and then he walked over to me kind of in the exact same situation, or the exact same kind of position that this guy just did to Nate. And he did go and try to grab me, though. So his hands were out like this. He goes, hey, 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 what are you doing? And then he tried to grab my arms, and I just kind of slipped back, and the hardest left hook I had ever thrown in my life outside of the gym, and I slept him. Okay, and I'm not trying to say this to be like arrogant or badass or anything like that. I slept him, and it immediately halted all the action. The people that were beating up my friends, or my friend, stopped, and all were like, "What? Why did you do that?" My buddy was able to get up. They all started freaking out. Then the parents came out of the house because it was a house party or whatever, and they started screaming and freaking out. And I'm like, why did I do that? You guys are beating up my friend. Like, I, you know what I mean? What are you talking about? And you approached me, buddy. Like, I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't instigate this. And so with the hands out thing, I am a little weary to like just say that, oh, well, the guy was being super like, oh, no, I'm not a threat, because that's exactly what that guy tried to do to me. I then later found out that he was in his 20s, which I thought was pretty funny, because now there's like no course of action he can take against me as a 14-year-old boy. Okay. And also, it's very embarrassing. Who wants to admit to their friends that they got slept by a 14-year-old? But it is what it is. Dude, he wasn't the biggest guy. He was probably about my size, if I'm being honest. But either way, man, I see a lot of people also, like guys over at MMA Junkie, they're talking about how it's that same that fat Mexican kid, the fat Mexican kid over at MMA Junkie, dude. He I don't know what it is about him. He has horrible takes. He's talking about how Nate Diaz should get bodyguards, or not go to the. He should get bodyguards like Floyd. He says, okay, well, he's got a little bit of money in the bank now. He says, okay, dude, well, like Floyd Mayweather probably spends a ton of money on security. Okay. Like, I don't, how much money do you think Nate Diaz has? First of all, Second of all, do you guys think? I see a lot of people saying, "Well, he always rolls 30 deep with boys that are ready to, you know what I mean, with guys that he knows will fight alongside him." Fair enough. I don't think it would matter if Nate Diaz had a legitimate security team and a brawl like that ensued. I think Nate Diaz would be just as likely to go and fight alongside with his security team as he would be with his buddies. Okay, now Nate Diaz. The one thing that I thought was real funny about this is there was a while, March 2022, right after Jorge Masvidal allegedly jumped Colby Covington. He posted a tweet on Twitter or tweeted or whatever the fuck, I don't know, I don't use Twitter, about how UFC fighters need to stop acting like children or animals or something like that and stop getting arrested, and I can't remember exactly. I'll put the tweet up on the screen, but man, at first I was kind of buying the theories that this was like potentially to build hype around the Logan Paul fight, or the Jake Paul fight, pardon me. I just don't think so anymore. I just think that this is Nate Diaz, you know what I mean? And Nate Diaz is gonna Nate Diaz. But also the fact that there's now like an arrest warrant and he's getting charged with what he's getting charged with, like to in order to do like a conspiracy for that, like that's like you're really risking it. You know what I mean? Nate Diaz could potentially go away for quite a while. You know what I mean? If he gets a shitty judge, or not even a shitty judge, but a judge that is just like sick of people acting like this, he could potentially go to jail for a very long time. And so what? So he could make a couple extra $500,000 on pay-per-view points or something. Like it's just, to me, that's not something I would risk. You know what I mean? The guy's got kids, man. Nate's got a kid. Like, people forget this because he doesn't act like a fucking parent, but he's got a kid. You know what I mean? And he's a pro fighter. So it's not a good look to a judge, man. And also, it's not a good look that earlier on in the night, he was seen, and not just seen, caught on camera, whipping a water bottle at some fucking goofy looking reality TV star. You know what I mean? So it's kind of unfortunate, man. But I get where he's coming from, and I'm not gonna. It's the literal Chael Sonnen thing. Like, I can't let you get close, right? That's what Nate Diaz did essentially to this guy, except he just took it one step further. I just I don't know, man. I can see it from his side, and also, dude, it's fucking like what's that term, dude? Fuck. You know, like survival of the fittest type shit. Like I can't think of the term right now. God damn it, that's driving me crazy. But how natural selection. That's what it is, dude. Natural selection. So this fucking idiot is like, I'm gonna go try and fight Nate Diaz. Okay, that's natural selection. Okay, like, you're a fucking idiot. Why? I remember this happening with guys, with BJ Penman. Right, and like some dude eventually, this is the problem. Eventually, you're gonna come across somebody who gets you at the right point in the night where you're like a little too intoxicated or whatever. And BJ Penn got slept by some fucking random at a bar. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate, dude. Now, as I said, potentially he could be facing 8 years in prison. Now, I don't know if he's got criminal record as an adult. I honestly imagine not, because I understand that he plays like this, not plays like, he definitely is, dude. This is I don't like criticizing Nate Diaz because he's just who he is. Like, he's real as fuck, dude, and I like him a lot. But man, stop fighting with fucking nobodies, and you know what I mean? The drop that also, when he choked him out and he dropped him, that is like the worst part to me, because potentially that dude could die, which is real natural selection, I guess, right? But then you're looking at a lot more time in prison, and it's not a good look for the UFC or any combat sports at all. And yeah, like, you could tell that he kind of tried to put him down a little bit, and maybe it was just that the guy's dead weight was like too much for Nate, but the way he just, nah, man, I don't think he tried very hard. He let go. Dude hit the back of his head on the concrete. There was a video of that guy reacting to the situation after, where he's got blood all up in his hair and shit like that. Now, I talked earlier about Jake Shields posting something on Twitter trying to play this off as self-defense, so I want to look at that right now. Now, I hope you guys can see this because I need glasses and I can barely fucking read this whatsoever. So I'm going to be squinting pretty hard here, okay? He says that Nate Diaz is in a defensive posture right now. Okay, Jake. So he's definitely in a defensive posture. If he was in a fight, right? Like if he was in the cage, if he was in a boxing ring, if he was at practice sparring, he's in a defensive position because he's got his hands up. Not in fighting stance. Yes, you are. I mean, his legs are squared, but you've got your hands up. You know what I mean? Like, what else does that mean? At least they're not like this. Like, you know, when he does at face-offs and shit. But still, arm not extended. Okay, dude. And feet parallel. Okay, dude. So he's ready to defend a takedown, and he's got his hands up. So I guess you could kind of say he's in a defensive posture, right? And then back less than a foot from the wall, right? So he's trying to play into the wall thing, which I think, in my opinion, is actually better if you're about to get into a violent altercation. Unknown person with a leg between his legs. Okay, dude. I don't know who that guy is. Grabs hands instead of punching. Well, why did he grab the hands at all? You know what I mean? Why did he grab the hands at all? The dude's walking up. And I've said why I think he did, but Jake Shields, if you're going to try and claim that this is an action of self-defense, you should probably go into a little bit more detail, because right now that to me looks like Nate Diaz was the instigator. Nobody was touching one another until Nate Diaz grabbed this dude's hands, right? So and then he says Rodney adjusts his stance once to one that is able to generate more power. He puts one leg back a little bit, dude. We talked about that. I literally autistically broke that down, how his foot was a little bit back. Man, to generate more power. Nate's already grabbed his hands at this point. Of course you're going to try and get into a more fight-ready position when a guy's grabbing you. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the way I look at it anyways. The guy was pretty squared up. His foot is a little bit back in that top photo, but not to the point where it is here. He absolutely puts one of his legs back, but that's because he doesn't want to get fucking pushed over. And then he says Rodney does not try to de-escalate as if Rodney's a fucking cop, eh? Instead, he fights the hands. Rodney, inside position, raises his hand towards Nate's head. Okay, dude. Yeah, he's fighting the hands because you already said Nate grabbed his hands first. Like, I don't understand, dude. Nate started the hand fighting. What is the guy... Nate's grabbed his hand, right? This dude's probably trying to pull his hand away, in all likelihood. Anyways, it's just an unfortunate situation, in my opinion, man. I don't like that that it happened at all. I don't care if it's to build hype for that fight, because, like, that's, to me, dude, that's not a very viable theory. Like, I know that Nate doesn't, like, think that far ahead, perhaps, but you're risking a lot just for, like, a little bit extra pay-per-view buys, essentially, which I don't think is worth it at all, especially for a guy that's already, you know, in all likelihood got at least a couple million in the bank. But again, I'm going to go back to what I said, dude. Like, if that guy really didn't want to start anything and didn't want this to happen or anything like this, why are you approaching the guy at all? Like, it really does seem like Nate saw that that guy was coming, so he pushed that dude off of him. Or not off of him, but pushed him away from him, so that he could face his direction towards this guy, which, that is something that if you've been in a lot of, like, if you've been in fights or, like, situations like this, you are aware of your surroundings, or at least you should be, because shit can happen that is not good. You know what I mean? I've been on the end that Nate was on, and I've been on the end of the other guy, and the end of the other guy, I was literally not instigating. I was walking home from school, and a guy that I had guy that I was supposed to fight, guy that I had a problem with, who was older than me, by the way, 2 years older than me, brought his dad and 3 adults to my school, and I had not even left school grounds yet, and the dad pulled the truck over. 3 boys jumped out, all adults, by the way. I found that out later also, all wielding ASP batons, or whatever you want to call them, the telescopic ones. And I was aware of that immediately, because I knew the truck, I recognized the truck, and I said, okay, That's him. Maybe he's gonna just make sure that he's there to supervise me fighting his son in case he's getting his ass beat a little bit too much. You know what I mean? And so then I realized, oh no, his kid didn't get out of the truck. Those are not the same people, and that guy's holding something down by his waist that I don't want to be tangling with. So then I took off, tried to, anyways. And one of their friends, that was on the side of the road, he tripped me. All good, dude. And and then so they beat me up for like a minute with these batons or whatever, cracked me on the head, back, all this shit, and then he ordered them off of me after I had taken a pretty good beating. So kicks to the face, my nose was busted already, and then my back was fucked from getting hit with these things. My head was fucked and bleeding, top of the head, back of the head, side of the head, everywhere. And he goes, okay, now you fight my kid. And I thought, okay. And I wasn't aware of my surroundings because now at this point I was like a little bit fucked up, and I thought I had enough time to like take my jersey off because it was baggy, and I didn't want to be wearing something baggy while I was fighting, like an actual fight, not getting jumped. And as I'm taking it off, my arms are up here with the jersey up, locked in there, and he cracks me across the nose pretty good. Broke it more than it was already broken. Um, so then I grabbed him and clinched him. And I did an outside trip because I was like, I'm way too wobbly to be standing right now. And then I got on top of him and I mounted him. And the kid's such a fucking pussy that he couldn't even beat me up after that had happened. So I just, you ever been in a dream where you just can't hit? Like, it's so frustrating. But there's something in your dreams just stopping you from hitting. That's what it felt like to me. I could not throw a punch if my life would depend on it right there. So I just held his arms down and just kind of like was trying to recover. And then I went to go get up, which was a little bit of a false start because I knew that he was going to lift his head up. He was going to try and sit up because he's an idiot and he doesn't get up how you're supposed to get up when you're in a combat situation. And then I dropped my fucking knee on his face and watched his head bounce off the concrete. And then I got up and took off. So, you know what I mean? I've been on the receiving end. I've been on the dishing it out end. And yeah, I kind of see it from both sides. Nate shouldn't be doing this though, man. Not at this age, not with kids, or not with a kid at least. You know, not as a professional fighter. The stakes are way higher, you know. Yeah, man. Unfortunate all around. And I don't know if I buy the whole it's to build hype thing, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. This video went a little bit longer than I thought it did. Yeah, anyways, dude. Like and subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.